Here's Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking, and he's saying, I am merely a gardener. I have neither a kingdom nor very great riches. I simply have some fruits and flowers that I wish to utilize to achieve piety in my life. Purport. Performing welfare activities for human society, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presents himself as being not very rich, thus indicating that a man need not be rich or opulent to act for the welfare of humanity. Sometimes, rich men are very proud that they can perform beneficial activities for human society, whereas others cannot. A practical example is that when there is a scarcity of food in India on account of meager rainfall, some members of the richer class very proudly distribute foodstuffs, making huge arrangements with the help of the government, as if by such activities people will be benefited. Suppose there were no food grains. How would rich men distribute food? Production of grains is completely in the hands of God. If there were no rain, there would be no grains. And these so-called rich men would be unable to distribute grains to the people. The real purpose of life, therefore, is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Rupa Goswami describes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that devotional service is so exalted that it is beneficial and auspicious for every man. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also declared that to propagate the bhakti cult of devotional service in human society, one does not need to be very rich. Anyone can do it, and thus render the highest benefit to humanity if he knows the art. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes the part of a gardener, because although a gardener is naturally not a very rich man, he has some fruits and flowers. Any man can collect some fruits and flowers and satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotional service, as recommended in Bhagavad Gita. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta priyachati taraham bhaktuparitam ashnami priyatatmanaha. One cannot satisfy the Supreme Lord by his riches, wealth, or opulent position. But anyone can collect a little fruit or flower and offer it to the Lord. The Lord says that if one brings such an offering in devotion, he will accept it and eat it. When Krishna eats, the entire world becomes satisfied. There is a story in the Mahabharata illustrating how Krishna is eating. The 60,000 disciples of Durvasa Muni were all satisfied. Therefore, it is a fact that if by our life, pranai, by our wealth, artai, by our intelligence, diya, or by our words, vacha, we can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, naturally the entire world will become happy. Therefore, our main duty is to satisfy the Supreme Godhead by our actions, by our money, and our words. This is very simple. Even if one does not have money, he can preach the Hare Krishna mantra to everyone. One can go everywhere, to every home, and request everyone to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Thus the entire world situation will become very happy and peaceful. So the text again. Mali manusha amaranahi rajadana pala pula dhyakari punya uparjana. I am merely a gardener. I have neither a kingdom nor very great riches. I simply have some fruits and flowers, and that I wish to utilize to achieve piety in my life. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanavane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadyade Siddharane. Everyone has the same objective of life. The objective that everyone has is, number one, get freed from the miseries of material life. And number two, try to enjoy life to the best of our capacity. Now, those who are in the material concept of life, their idea is, well, as Krishna says, Chatura Vida Bhajante Mam Jana Sukritina Arjuna Arta Jignasya Artarati Gyani Charbharatar Shiva. There are four kinds of pious people who try to satisfy their ideas of happiness and freedom from distress. And there are four kinds of impious people who also try to satisfy their ideas of happiness and freedom from distress. Those who are in the mode of ignorance, who try to become free from their miseries by eating, sleeping, mating, defending, by increasing it, they're called mudhas. And Prahlad Maharaj said, in his society, which is many years ago, there were not only mudhas, but there were vimudhas. He said there were not only asses, but there were super asses. So in modern society, we have super duper asses. Mudha. Why are they mudhas? Because they think that somehow or another, by increasing the very sources of their misery, they're actually going to find happiness. So that's super ass. On the other hand, one who knows he's suffering and he approaches the right person to get free from the suffering, then he's called a Shudra. He's lamenting because the material world has only two activities going on. One is we're hankering for what we don't have, and the other is we're lamenting over what we lost. Or we're lamenting we had something that we have something we didn't really want. Just like Srila Prabhupada said, when Shruti Kirti Prabhu got married. So Shruti Kirti Prabhu, he was Prabhupada's servant, and Prabhupada said, don't go into the kitchen to cook. Make sure you don't go into the kitchen. But as usual, when you get an instruction from someone, the first thing you do is you don't follow it. So he decided one day he'd go into the kitchen and cook, and that was the end of the story. His soulmate was cooking there. So he got married. He went to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, I'm married, now I can't go with you traveling. I can't because I have my wife. So Prabhupada said, yes. It's just like before the feast, you're hankering. I can't wait till the feast comes, and then I'll enjoy. And then you have the feast, and afterwards you're lamenting, oh, if only I didn't eat so much, I would be happy. So that's material world, hankering for what we don't have, and then after we get something, either we don't like it, it's a burden to keep it, or we don't like it or we lose it, and then we lament. That's the summary of material existence. So, to get out of that material existence, one has to at least become a Shudra to begin to get out of it. That is, to ask, why am I suffering? Now, most people think they're suffering because they're not getting enough sense gratification. They're not gratifying their desires enough. There are two kinds of desires. One is the gross senses, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Those have their limitations. You can only eat so much, most people. Because the Romans, they used to eat, they used to have big they were Boga festivals, where they gorge themselves and then they go and throw up, they vomit, so they could eat some more. Needless to say, the Romans didn't live very long. In any case, that's one thing. We generally have a limitation to how much we can gratify our senses. There's a limit to how much we can eat. There are only 24 hours in the day to sleep. As far as sex life goes, well, you could try, but generally no one is as even strong as a pigeon nowadays. Pigeons that can have sex life 20 times in a day, but that would be very hard for most people. And as far as defending, there's only a limitation to defense also. You can only have so much money in the bank, you can only learn so many karate moves, and then someone shoots you anyhow, the end of the story. So, there's only some limitation to how much we can gratify the desires of our senses, their pushings. But the mind, it can come up with ideas that will take us lifetimes to satisfy. There's no limit to how many things the mind can come up with. And then, of course, in modern society, because of people's sinful life, they give you a credit card. So you could try to satisfy your mind by buying things that have no real value and just put yourself in debt for 5 lifetimes. So that's called Shudra, one who actually knows that I'm suffering and then tries to find out why they're suffering. And lo and behold, we know why they're suffering, because of illicit sex, gambling, meat eating, and intoxication. But people won't give it up. This is what they live for. As Prabhupada said, the learned Bengali governor, what was his name? From that Prabhupada's godbrother met him in London. And he asked him, could I become a Brahmin? He asked Prabhupada's godbrother, could you make me a Brahmin?
Lord Zetlin.
Zetlin. Lord Zetlin, sophisticated, educated British man, became the governor of Bengal, which was like, that was a big position back then. And he was asking to become a Brahmin, and his godbrother said, sure, I can make you a Brahmin. You just have to follow these 4 principles. No illicit sex, no gambling, no meat eating, no intoxication. And Lord Zetlin said, impossible. Such a learned person, supposedly a gentleman, but he could not even follow some basic principles of human life. They don't know that this is the cause of their suffering. They think it's the happiness. Whereas Prabhupada was interviewing one social worker in Australia. And Prabhupada was saying that, Prabhupada said that, we're doing social work. And the man said, you should help us. The man said, no, I'm supposed to help society. That's my job. So Prabhupada said, we're part of society. You should help us. The man was quite dull. Prabhupada said, yeah, and part of our mission is to follow these 4 principles. And the man said, no, I can't follow that. Me and my wife have sex, and we love it. We really like it. I can't give it up. So that's called mudha. They're suffering. They don't care about what actually to eliminate the cause of their suffering. They want to increase their suffering. Now one who's actually a little pious, who becomes a Shudra, he inquires what the cause of suffering is. He regulates his sense gratification in the future by serving the higher classes, in the future by such association, by association with Krishna, following Krishna's instructions, regulating his sense gratification. In the future, he becomes a Vaishya. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going in Navadvip and trying to collect donations, because he was a Brahmin. Brahmins in that time, they could get a lot of donations. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went and he was giving donations from all the shopkeepers, and then he came to a learned astrologer. And he asked the learned astrologer, please tell me who I was in my last lifetime. So the learned astrologer probably said he was a special astrologer because he didn't have to do all these calculations. He simply sat there in meditation. And when he was sitting there in meditation, he saw a big fish, half the size of the universe, and he saw devastation. Then he saw a tortoise holding Mount Mandara, Golden Mountain, on his back. And demigods and demons were rotating, Vaisuki. And then he saw a boar lifting up the Bhumandala. And he said, well, my dear sir, it's been a very bad day. And I had a bad night. I can't really concentrate so much. I can't really figure out who you were in your last lifetime. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, let's concentrate a little bit more. I'm sure you'll get it. So then he saw a half man, half lion. And then he saw the green man holding a bow and some monkeys, surrounded by some monkeys. And then he said, oh, I got it. I'm getting a hint. You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no. In my last lifetime, I know exactly who I was. I was a cowherd boy. And because of my pious activities of taking care of cows, therefore in this lifetime I become a Brahmin. So that's how things work. As one becomes an instrument for Krishna and protects and engages others in Krishna consciousness and gives up sense gratification, then gradually one becomes elevated. And even we find in the case of the Pandavas. The Pandavas, they were the most opulent position, but they were not interested in their material acquisitions. They were interested in Krishna consciousness. As soon as we become interested in our material possessions, as soon as we identify them with them, whatever they are, in Kali Yuga we practically have nothing. Prabhupada said even the pauper is proud of his penny in Kali Yuga. Then immediately we're in the Bali concept of life. Then immediately we're in anxiety, I'm going to lose my penny. And then we're hankering to get another one. So even if we have the whole universe like Lord Brahma, if there is a little bit of hankering, now I only have 4 heads, I saw Brahmas with 8 heads, maybe my next lifetime I can get 8 heads. I can get a real universe that have some space. Then that hankering eventually will lead to lamentation, because even Brahma has to leave his 4-headed body and go somewhere else. So as soon as we have the slightest hankering, we're going to have a whole lot of lamentation. So therefore, Queen Kunti said, Vipadak Shantitak, Vishan Mahagne Purushada Darshanad, Asara Sabaya, Vanavala Krichkataha, Mride Nekamahara Tastraso, Dronastra Yastast, Dronastasmaha. Vishan Mahagne Purushada Darshana, that they were put into so much difficulty. Now we expect that after so many, being a personal associate of Krishna, so much pious activities, they would have had a relatively peaceful, happy life. But no, their whole life, people were trying to kill them. Or as one devotee once said, even if you think that people, it's not that just because you think people are out to kill you, that you're paranoid. Sometimes people are actually out to kill you. So, Duryodhana company, they were actually out to kill the Pandavas. They fed them poison, Bhima specifically. They put them into a house made out of lac and set it on fire to burn them to death. They were fled into the forest. A man-eater came to eat them. They escaped that. Their wife was insulted in an assembly. They were on a battlefield. People were throwing brahmastras at them during the battle and afterwards. So it wasn't a very peaceful life. Everywhere they looked, someone was out to get them. But Queen Kunti wasn't disturbed by all that. She said, Vipadak shanti takshasvat tatra tatra jagat guru bhavata darshanam nyasyat apana bhavadarshanam. I want calamities. I want them again and again. Because when we have calamities, then we see you again and again. And because we see you, there'll be no more repeated birth and death. So she had big calamities. The Pandavas had big calamities. They had to pray for the calamities. But we're much more fortunate in Kali Yuga. We don't have to pray. They come one after another automatically. So this problems, our fear that we're going to be put into miserable situations, coronavirus is going to, attack us, we'll be on our bed, we'll be suffering, and, anyhow the economy is going to shatter and we'll be out in the street. So much fear. So we don't have to pray. The problems will come. And at the end, there is death. The ultimate problems can't be solved, in spite of supposedly solving the other problems. But if one is actually, consciousness is fixed on Krishna, then there is no problems. And if one's consciousness is not fixed on Krishna, then we'll find problems even when we're not there. And if we think, well, now I have no problems, what to do? Now I'm all right. Or as one devotee said, his father is 90 years old. He had a triple bypass operation in his heart. And the devotee said to his father, now you should get serious about Krishna consciousness. And his father said, no, I don't have to. I had the operation, so I'm all right now. So even when we think we're all right, then those who have less intelligence, then Queen Kunti says, Janmaishvarya Shute Shibira Edamanak Madak Puman Naivahatya Vidatum Vaip Tvam Akinchana Gochara. Then we think, well, let me increase my material situation, better my material circumstances, get more education, more wealth, more material influence. Let me increase it, and then I'll be happy. Then I'll feel protected. But Krishna says, actually, Queen Kunti says, that this is very bad. This like not having wealth, having material position, having material influence, having material good birth, that's not bad. But to hanker for it, to try to get more and more and more, so much as wealth do I have, and I'll get more in the future. So much is mine, and in the future I'll get more and more. Then we'll have enemies, and we'll have to kill them. And all our other enemies will have to be killed. And then we'll get puffed up. I am the Lord of everything. I am perfect. I am powerful. I am happy. As Prabhupada mentions here, the pride will come in. That this is mine. And I am so great because I've gotten all these things. And then one will not be able to chant the holy, as Prabhupada said, that we're already intoxicated by this material conception of life that we're in, identifying ourselves with this material body and our material circumstances. And then Prabhupada said, if you then add on to it hankering for material opulence, then you become mad. And a madman can't chant Hare Krishna with any feeling. Therefore, as it says in this purport, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is not that we need a whole lot of material opulence. Or if we don't have opulence, then we should be lamenting, hankering, oh, I need this and I need that. Something new will come out and then I'll become happy. Or as Prabhupada said one time, during the Nixon and American president's election, Nixon was advertising that elect me and you'll become happy. Everything will become better. And Prabhupada said that's the same old thing. They're always promising. And with the change of government, anything's going to change. Actually, things are changing. They'll get worse. They're promising, as one president promised, a chicken in every pot. Now they're promising a McDonald's hamburger in every pot. Things are getting worse. Because people don't know what better is. Better is to actually become aware of reality, to get out of the bodily concept of life. And as long as we're hankering and lamenting, then our relationships with everyone else in this material world will become distorted. For those who can give us what we hanker for, they become our friends. And for those who want to take away what we have, or impeding our hankering, our acquisition, they become our enemies. And our whole world becomes focused around hankering and lamentation. If we want to become prasanatma, if we want to become jolly, as Prabhupada said, then we have to give that up. And the only way to do it is to see that the goal of life is not to hanker for things or lament over things, try to prevent death from occurring. Or as Shukadeva Goswami said, Deha patya kalatradishu atma sanyeshva satsupi tesham pramato nidanam pashanapina pashati. What is all this acquisition about? Is to get some soldiers, fallible soldiers, protect us against death. That when the Yamadutas come to take me away, my wife will have her rolling pin and hit them over the head. My children will jump on them, and my dog will bite them, and they'll go away. And I'll live forever in this family. The ultimate misery is death, and people are trying to get out of misery, especially the ultimate misery, and they're trying to get protection from it, from their family, their bank balance, their exercises, whatever. But no matter what they do, they just wind up doing the same thing over and over again. Matirna Krishna Parataksato mito bipadyeta griha vratanam adantago bir vishitam tamizram punat punas charvata charvanana. They're being impelled by their senses to do this or that, but they're just winding up doing the same thing over and over again. Because they don't know that the aim of life is to obtain Krishna. And therefore they're involved in less important things. I mean, they're being misled by the so-called leaders of society. They don't take shelter of guru or sadhu or shastra. They so-called authorities in shastra who are blind. And they're leading the other blind people. And therefore there's simply no progress. Resolution, revolution, dissolution, no solution. Therefore, we should see Krishna has given us exactly what we need for our service. We don't have to give it up. We don't have to get more. We just have to be satisfied with what Krishna is giving us and then utilizing it to tell people about Krishna, to get people to chant Hare Krishna. Maintain the body in a healthy way, have healthy relationships with others, and at the same time distribute Krishna consciousness to others. And not worry about what we might lose, because we're going to lose everything, I guarantee you. And if I'm wrong, you can come back. We give you a refund. Everyone's going to lose everything, today or tomorrow. But the soul, if it gains Krishna, then it lives forever. And it has unlimited wealth in Krishna consciousness, unlimited happiness, unlimited everything. So that's our choice. Either we can go on hankering, lamenting, and then treating others according to what they can give us or what they may take away from us, and never really enter into devotional service because we're too much absorbed in our illusory world of the material existence. Or we can remain humble and understand whatever we have, whatever we see, whatever we touch, whatever is within our influence is all Krishna's, and we simply have an opportunity to utilize it for His service. And that's very simple. Simply convince people that they should do the same thing. Chant Hare Krishna and utilize their energies to spread Krishna consciousness and give up this unnecessary hankering and lamentation, wasting our time, trying to get nothing and lamenting over the fact that we lost, which is actually winds up to be insignificant. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any comments or questions? Yes. Do we have a microphone? Is this being recorded or is it?
We're gonna. That microphone is strong enough to hear.
Oh, okay. It's a powerful microphone. Okay, go on.
I don't know why I was laughing when you were saying that we are going to lose everything. It is always kind of hilarious. But anyway, I have another question.
Well, you're going to laugh yourself to death.
You were mentioning Maharaj Grove Count of Zetland or what it was, and this other Australian clerk, and in context that all the miseries come from breaking the regulative principles. But on the other hand, in Mahabharata, I saw a description of Pandu approaching his wife, and it was, usual secular, romantic thing, which this clerk probably did it in the same way many times. So Pandu was able to sustain piety and even Krishna consciousness and I know whatever else. So if you can together parallel with these romantic activities, if you can comment on this.
From what I understood, there's something about in the Mahabharata that some of the principal figures like Pandu, they had some exciting happiness from sex life. They had real romantic sex life, and everyone else has just ordinary sex life.
Oh, that's the answer?
No, that's not the answer. No, sex life is the same for everyone. But, as Krishna says, that sex life which is not contrary to religious principles, that I am. Dharma Varuda Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatar Shiva. So if one is actually in Krishna consciousness, even when one has sex life, the happiness from being in Krishna consciousness is far superior to whatever happiness one gets from sex life. But Pandus, the Pandu or the Pandavas, they were kings. They had an obligation as part of their service to produce children. But they were always in Krishna consciousness at the same time. So they're always in ecstasy. So if you're in unlimited ecstasy, what kind of material happiness, what will that add to it? Still, it's their duty. So what their consciousness was, we don't know. Because we're not in the same level of Krishna consciousness as they have. And therefore, because we're lacking that, the only thing left is what we think is sense pleasure. But they weren't just experiencing that. They're experiencing the happiness of Krishna consciousness, which is far beyond that. Therefore, better not to identify them as ordinary human beings. They were extraordinary because they were pure devotees of Krishna. They were living in a different realm of existence than we are. Anything else? Yes.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for the class. And especially you said we constantly should be absorbing Krishna, and the reasons why we don't do this because we think we are okay. Even the devotees can come to that, I'm okay, I'm in the temple, I'm
Go out and distribute some books. Everyone will remind you who you actually are. Do something that requires some reliance on Krishna. Or just wait a while. Just wait a few years in Kali Yuga, don't worry. Maya will come up with something that will reveal our actual situation. Who could imagine a couple of years ago that the whole world would be locked down, couldn't even go outside their homes in some places? Had to wear a mask. In Spain, they had a law that you had to wear a mask when you were swimming. Who could imagine such a thing? And we're only in the beginning of Kali Yuga. Just wait around. Yes?
Maharaj, you mentioned that if Shudra serves and associates with higher class, that in the future he will become Vaishya or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so does that mean that, for example, Vaishya, by associating with the higher class, will become Kshatriya, Kshatriya by Brahmana? So does that mean that in one lifetime, or? No,
usually it could be take one lifetime. I don't know. It depends on how sincere and how much they are obedient to their authorities. But generally speaking, what happens is that someone becomes obedient on some level to a higher authority, becomes eligible to become someone like a Vaishya in their next lifetime. But due to bad association, instead of that, they become a Naradharma. They become the lowest among mankind. They have some superior intelligence, like the modern so-called first world societies. But they utilize it for sinful activities. And therefore, instead of becoming Vaishyas, they become Naradharmas. And they create problems all over the world. They're active, foolish. Or they follow strictly as businessmen or whatever, they protect cows and they live a pious life, and then become eligible to learn from the Brahmins how to govern society. But instead of that, they become Maya Pritagyanas. They become mental speculators. And they defy the scriptures. They defy the actual philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And sometimes they become actually, Kshatriyas, they become proper administrators, and then they follow the Brahmins. In the next lifetime they become eligible to become a Brahmin, to aim for liberation, but instead of that become envious of God, think themselves to be God. So they become asram bhavam ashrityas. So Maya will always try and trick one. Even when one tries to become a devotee after liberation, Maya will still try to trick one. She's not very successful, but we find in the example of Bhatt Maharaj, even though he had come almost to the platform, the preliminary platform of bhava, of ecstasy, still Maya tricked him and he became a deer in his next lifetime. So Maya is always there, ready to capture our thinking or our feeling or our willing and put us back at least a few lifetimes. Anything else? Yes?
I was just wondering, what is the aim of the Ratha Yatra? Why we are doing so many Ratha Yatra?
Well, for one thing, it's some exercise for the devotees. They're always in the temple, so, so they get a chance to take a walk, do some pulling something. And then also the esoteric aim is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Krishna, he was in Dwarka and he was feeling some separation. So in any case, he went to a pilgrimage site called Kurukshetra, and there he met his former associates from Vrindavan, and they were urging him to come back to Vrindavan And so this is Krishna feeling separation from Vrindavan. And there's a long story about how Lord Jagannath appeared. You know that story? Yeah. So it's the symbolic representation of Krishna feeling separation from Vrindavan and Radharani drawing him back to come, pleading with him to come back to Vrindavan so he can be happy and the residents of Vrindavan can serve him and be happy too. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is enacting that feeling of separation, and we ourselves, we get the opportunity to participate in that drama of separation from Krishna and from Vrindavan. And by assisting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in feeling his separation, we can also partake of that feeling of separation and bring Krishna back to Vrindavan with us also. We can go back to Vrindavan and bring Krishna with us. Yes? One.
This question reminded me to ask you something that we were yesterday talking amongst ourselves. A television reporter comes and asks us, what is this you are doing? What is this festival of Chariots Prahladananda? What would you tell them?
Oh, I don't know. We can tell them. It depends who the reporter is. But generally speaking, as Maharaj said yesterday, that we're trying to bring love and peace to the world. And this is a ceremony because the only way we can find peace and love in the world is if we serve the Supreme Lord. And this is a ceremony where we reveal to the world how the Lord is the proprietor of everything, how everything should be engaged in His service, and that He's our real friend. And by this service to the Supreme Lord, when this is revealed, people can become peaceful and happy. So that's what we're here for, to make people peaceful and happy. Yes, one more question.
Yesterday, one person danced and he said he was attending security conference, I don't know, this European security conference, so there was one person who could derive some peace.
So it was worth the whole festival. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhu said we'll spend gallons of blood to bring one person to Krishna consciousness. So we'll dance millions of steps and pull millions of chariots just to get one person to take advantage of this movement. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.